Okay, so this will be a feedback slash critique for Tooru. Uh, you guys know the drill. I'm just a nerd who likes Tekken, and I like Josie because she's a cutie pie. I do not like Julia because holy shit, this character is annoying to play against. Uh, I'm not sure how familiar you are with the Julia matchup. You mentioned I think you're gonna do a money match, and it's just a tough matchup. Like, okay, so my philosophy on top tiers in Tekken, right? Every I don't know, every top tier matchup just kind of turns into like a similar overall game plan. It's a grind. It's a grindy war of attrition where hope ideally you have the gimmicks covered, right? Like Julia has a lot of cheesy stuff, and you're making sure you punish all this stuff. Like you're not just letting the Julia spam 1-1-1 or wall standing one or any of her -14 stuff. If you don't, become very familiar with her -14 stuff because she has a surprising amount of them. Right. And it's the specific Julia you're facing doesn't seem like someone who's liable to like use those moves a lot. But every opportunity that you see those moves, it's a guaranteed up forward 3-4. Most I want to say up forward 3-4 is always guaranteed. The range on that thing is insane, so you should be fine. Forward 1+2 should be guaranteed, but I'm not sure, based on like pushback, right? But when you block stuff like wall standing 4, if you don't get a launch, right, you want to make sure you're punishing it hard, right? Julia just has surprisingly a lot of stuff that she's punishable on. Now, get the gimmicks out of the way, and now you're dealing with her powerful tools. Like, what's her abusable stuff that she can't, that's harder to punish. And unfortunately, it's fucking lot, right? Forward 1, right? Be very comfortable blocking that and developing habits on how to read your opponent's tendencies. How often do they finish the string? How often do they buffer mad axes? How often do they go for another forward 1? And what are your responses to each, right? And it's really just about how well you are able to capitalize on a read and making sure you capitalize on that. And the last thing to cover, the main important thing, is bow and arrow, right? This character has a full crouch mix-up, right? An unseeable low sweep into Oki or a mid. And this shit's mad annoying. This is going to become even more critical because you utilize a lot of switch stuff, and a lot of, switch 1 normally is great as a coverage of like, don't challenge me, make sure they respect switch at least, right? They don't challenge you too much. The main benefit of that is usually, oh, you put the opponent in force crouch. This restricts a lot of their options. They can only sidestep in one direction. They can only use a select amount of moves. Yeah, all of that goes out the window when the character that you put into force crouch has a full crouch mix-up, right? So you have to just kind of be like, am I going to be very judicious with how often I put them in force crouch? Or do I just go, nah, fuck it, I'm just gonna have the read on when you're gonna go for your mix-ups and stuff. So being very cognizant of those options.
Okay, so Josie started off with
So
Julia catching the magic 4. We're over at the wall. Very nice.
how do you handle? Okay, this is fine.
Okay, was really good to block
Yeah, so far so good. So like right here, why are you dashing in, right? I'm gonna try and keep this relatively more condensed. Oh god, I'm so burned out. Anyway, why are you dashing in, right? No tool you have would be at risk of
Okay,
whiffing from this
really good
distance.
to
Where do you
block
stop that?
Julia.
Your wall combo, like right here, right? What tool do you need to dash in for, right? It's in your favor because the wall is by the Julia, and nothing that you would want to use on Oki is gonna whiff, right? So be mindful of your stage positioning, be mindful of the distance from the opponent, and don't be afraid to just go into Oki, right? Now at the start you may want to be a bit more cautious to just kind of gain more information on the opponent. Okay, I've knocked them down. What do they like to do? Do they like to press buttons? Do they like what type of wake ups do they like to use, etc., etc., etc. Right? So in the future, you got to make that decision of, am I going to back off, or are you going to try and apply Oki? And if you're going to try and apply Oki, be cognizant of like, you don't need to dash in for this. Just do your move, right? There's no way anything you do is gonna whiff. Against a spring kick, I mean, there's no way anything you're going to do is going to whiff in terms of range, right? Against a spring kick, that's a whole different option. This kind of happens a lot where maybe that move is minus 13, right? But you kind of overcommit to wall standing 2-1 a lot, right? So brush up on exactly how punishable this is, right? And make sure your punishment is up to snuff. If it is not minus 13, and also just in general, don't be afraid to use wall standing 4, right? Because you want to utilize the pushback more. Doing wall standing 2-1 into backsway is a lot of heavy commitment. Julia is packed up her ass with mids upon mids upon mids that will make your day a living nightmare, right? She's very rarely going to do the high in this situation because your back is to the wall, right? And the only high that I realistically see her doing is like forward 1-4, right? The high kick ender. So just throughout the match, it feels like you kind of overcommit to doing the backsway transition. Don't be afraid to just use wall standing 4. Use the pushback from it to give yourself some breathing room and start moving out of the way to disalign yourself from the wall, right? Oh, and that's another thing, right? So her wind roll stuff, that's really tough. I don't know enough about this stance, TBH, to really give you a breakdown of like, here's what you do against wind roll. Mostly Julias I play against just use a lot of like bow and arrow and forward 1 and other stuff. Supposedly if you have a 12 frame mid, that shit gets a lot easier to deal with. I don't play any character with that, so rip me. But, you know, experiment with your options in training mode. Try to set up some various situations. You know, how well does down 4-2 work? How well does down 4 work? How well does, what else? 1+4 should track pretty well, right? You know, how well does 1+4 work, right? Etc., etc., etc. Experiment with your options, see what's up. Okay, so this is another thing, right? These sort of counter hit bait setups. I don't think Julia's got like godlike punishment. I honestly can't say for sure. Doing it right here, normally I would say is kind of risky just because it's like, oh, you know, you don't have that much life to work with. However, you know, they fell for the previous Magic Force setup that you did, so it's reasonable to assume that like, okay, you know, we'll try the hop kick setup, but it didn't work out, and so keep that in mind of like, okay, they didn't fall for that one, and you as the player have to decide, am I gonna go for another one, or am I going to see that they blocked and just be like, okay, they're not going to be pressing into my buttons as much. And just in general, I think the hop kick is kind of a risky play, kind of. Because here's the thing, the hop kick is great against, you know, shitty jabs and whatnot. But a lot of times Julie just doesn't really use her jabs that much, not that I'm aware of. Like, she has the 1-1-1 stuff, but I don't know, half the time it's usually forward 1. So just be careful, right? Because she could very just easily, like, forward 1, see you get juggled by the mid hit, and then float you with forward 1-4 for combos and whatnot. So make the decision, right? Are you going to continue with 1 or 2 more counter hit baits to see if they're really going to not commit to pressing any buttons, or, you know, take the safer play and just being like, okay, I don't think my counter hit setups are going to be working as much. Let me opt for more safer setups.
Okay, we got the punish out of the block hop kick, and
Unfortunate.
Cleans it up. Back turn, taking the first round.
Okay, so now, no, third time's the charm. You can, obviously nothing is set in stone. However, you can kind of see that, like, okay, the This is the third time that, or technically second time. Third time a situation has happened where you have the advantage, and if they press something, they would die. But it's the second time that they're just kind of like, I'm not going to press anything. So it's like a mental note. Okay, if I have the advantage and I have like a counter hit setup going on, they're not really going to press into stuff. So now, excuse me, these situations where you're trying to press your advantage, and it's like, okay, I have frame advantage, let me translate that into a counter hit tool. So now it has to be, now you want to lean into, okay, I have frame advantage, now I want to translate, I want to cash that out and do a mix-up as opposed to a counter hit setup, right? So mix-ups include, mid of choice, 4-3-4 was okay here, but also a lot more like 1+4, because 1+4 is pretty scary, right? Easy damage, easy chip damage, now you have switch to work into and whatnot. And we'll talk about switch some more, but we'll get to that later, right? But, stuff to consider, right? That your counter hit bait or whatever isn't always going to work out, so remember to flip the script sometimes and just be like, instead of a counter hit, I'm just going to go for a mix-up with my low or throw or high or whatever.
Barrow comes out aggressive, not able to hold the position though. Very nice. Tracer right there. We had a match before, could not convert. Got back in with the tracer.
Okay, so
Tracer right there. We had a match before, could not.
Why the forward 4, right? The Julia's not really dancing around too much. They're not really sidestepping you that much. They're doing wind roll stuff, but that's like a stance, basically, right? That's something that they're already close range. They're already starting to sidestep around you, and you need to utilize stuff that has good tracking, right? Maybe back 2 or something. I don't really know what like the ideal tracking options are. What's like a good coverall option? RIP down forward 2 tracking. At ranges, they're not really sidestepping you that much. Not yet that I'm seeing. So forward 4 is basically just kind of like I'm just gonna get up close to you at -9, and that's it. And putting yourself at -9 against a character with a pretty good plethora of deadly mix-ups is not really a place you want to be, right? So options to consider, right? Instead of doing forward 4, give them more reasons to duck or sidestep, right? Do forward 3, do crouch dash 3, do 1+4. Down 4 is a valuable tool still, but it's not really, you're not going to make anybody duck with down 4, right? They're going to get annoyed maybe, and against certain players that's useful because they'll start slapping, they'll start pressing buttons, and then they'll get frustrated. It doesn't, this Julia player doesn't really strike me as that, right? So, first give them a reason to duck or sidestep, and then start using forward 4. Right? Forward 4 is not really what I would consider an approach tool. You're getting in there. You are technically approaching, but you're just putting yourself at such a disadvantage that it's just kind of like, what was the point, right? Yeah. So continue. Always fuzzy. Pretty sure you can fuzzy it. Duck, forward 1-4. Right, that's a launch. You have to capitalize on those opportunities.
Party Crasher doesn't hit, but we get an answer from Trey Trizzy. We're almost even now. Oh man.
Good call out with down 4 too. I don't know what you hit, but you hit something.
We got some position. We're taking some lows. Oh, we got some more lows coming. Yep. Try to get him ducking. Bow and arrow.
Okay, so like.
Some lows. Oh, we got some more lows coming. Yep.
What the fuck? Okay, so now. Congratulations. You're facing Julia, and you got knocked down by bow and arrow, right? What the fuck is that move? Is it back 1+2? No, it is not. Down 1+2? Yeah! That shit's -14. What the fuck? That's crazy. I hate this move. Okay, so. So now I'm pretty sure. Okay. in case I don't, if you might already know, but in case you don't, I'm just gonna go through it and try to make it quick TLDR. When Julia knocks you down in bow and arrow, she has two options. She has this option, Angry Bull, or I just down 1+2, or this option, forward 2. This option hits anything you try and do. You're going to try and spring kick, you're going to try and tech roll, you're going to try and side roll, you're going to try and hold back to get up, you're going to try and quick rise. Whatever you want to do, this will hit you out of it, right? The only thing that beats this is staying on the ground, because it does not hit grounded. If you try and move it all, even by a pixel, it will hit you for some godforsaken reason. So, staying on the ground. However, staying on the ground gets you hit by this move, right? This shit hits grounded. So now you're in a 50-50, right? Congratulations. you ate one 50-50 and now you're in another one. What a fun character. So, what do you need to do? Again, become very familiar with the option and start utilizing various wake-up timings to challenge it. Because this move is kind of death on whiff, right? If you're sharp on your timing, you can reasonably get up and get a decent punish on this, or even spring kick it or something. I think you do spring kick it later in this round. Or you get up and then you block this, right? I'm like 99% sure that this thing is force crouch. Like, it leaves you force crouch when you block it. For some reason, the Tekken 7 frame data bot doesn't reflect that. I'll double check. But just practice it. Just test it out in practice mode. Because if she does this, because, you know, once you start staying on the ground, they're going to go, okay, well, let me do forward 2. And you have to just kind of have a read on it, right? And just get up quickly to block it. Which normally sucks, because it's like, oh, I literally just have to guess for my life here, because both options are kind of annoying. However, if you force them to use this and you block it, you can launch them, right? With all standing 2-1. Assuming this does leave you force crouch, which I'm like 90% sure it does. If it doesn't, fuck me, rip. Regardless, you still have a really good punish opportunity at -13, because that's what this move is on block. So you just gotta see what they like to do and just adjust accordingly, right? Usually it's pretty reasonable to assume they're gonna do down 1+2 first. Rip. Get him. Nice. Usually it's reasonable to assume they'll do down 1+2 first, so just stay on the ground, and then once you start whiffing, like, they're like, oh, this guy knows. Yeah, okay, so now we get to the crux of this situation. The main issue. You just put Julie in force crouch. Congratulations, you're now in mix-up city, right? Is she gonna do mid? Is she going to do bow and arrow? Also, practice blocking bow and arrow, because you want to make sure that you block the full thing because it's low mid, and then making sure that you launch punish accordingly, right? It's like just making sure your punish is consistent, because if you block the move, congratulations, you should always launch them. Excuse me. Nice. Spring kick. Oh, shit. Did that pick up? Unfortunate. Oh, shit. Yeah. I think that time you're just overcommitting to the switch, and you're already locked into it. It is what it is. Oh. Why the crouch dash 2? It's so weird. Yeah, it's like, I don't think that move, I think it's wall standing 3? The helmet? It is only -7. Why? Anyway. Yeah, so I don't think jump, maybe a bit too trigger happy. It is what it is. Let's keep going.
giving him a lot of room to hang himself. Good damage right there. Up, try to catch him. Quick
Nice.
rising, wasn't able to do it. Pharaoh is back on the attack. Oh, nope. Down 4-2. Free punish. Trey Trizzy says, I got this. Let's tie it up. Okay, we got a little bit of damage.
It's so weird.
I was scared.
That's like the second time I've seen you use 143. I'm not gonna harp on it too much. It's not like she launched you for it. Oh, she has annoying hop kicks, huh? God, her hop kicks are so dumb. But you know, just stick to like 1-4, right? You don't need to commit to the 3. It's not even about them not punishing. It's just you want to always try to. Josie's actually like pretty slippery, right? She's pretty safe on a lot of stuff. And yeah, her movement is not amazing, but she has a lot of stuff that leaves her at like frames that you can technically move around in, right? So how bad is 1-4? Yeah, 1-4 is only -4 on block, right? So you can move around a bit. Try to create more of those situations, right? We'll talk about that when we get to neutral. Oh no, an unfortunate drop. Oh, good shit.
That wall bounce was rough. Oh, bow and arrow still putting in some work. See what we're gonna do. Bow and arrow again. Oh.
Unfortunate.
Trizzy getting some mileage out of the.
Oh yeah, her forward 4
Do something about that.
for some shit hits grounded. Unreal.
Let's see. Yep.
That shit's mad annoying with the wall.
Famous after this is over with. Oh. Okay, we got Crouch Dash 3 coming back to play. Oh, okay. Said no, I don't want the wall flat from the front. No, thank you. Getting the 1-2 spin a lot. Lots of mileage off of the spin. Hasn't been challenged yet. Oh, there we go. I stand corrected. Down 4-2.
An unfortunate drop.
Crouch Dash 3 was blocked. Oh,
Nice.
very nice. Yes. Pharaoh. Answering. Taking the first round. Good. All right. So Trey Trizzy stabs him with his position. Bow and arrow again. That has been the story of this match. Bow and arrow has been putting in work for Trey Trizzy. Getting the story of this match.
So this is like, we'll talk about this now before I get to like the neutral breakdown stuff. It seems to be a running theme is that you kind of like go for a lot of like these mix-ups, right? Like you're like, okay, I think they're gonna crouch, let me just do down 4-2, or I think they're gonna crouch, let me do CD2. And it's understandable, but I consider just doing more of like safer mid checks, right? Like instead of just relying on down 4-2, why not just do like CD 1+2, right? They haven't challenged your crouch dash that much. They haven't really sidestepped that much that you have to worry about of like, oh no, they're sidestepping now, right? The only time you see what's the word, lateral movement, right? The only time you see that is that they're up close and doing their win roll mix-ups or whatever it's called. So in the future, just consider using a bit more safer options just to like see like, okay, are they finally going to block low? Let me just do a safe mid where if they don't block low, I'll still have a favorable situation, right? Because CD 1+2 is like stupidly plus on block. Just stuff to consider. Just we'll talk about that later. Just yeah. I mean, they're not punishing you, so it's like whatever. But yeah, it's just more about like making sure that you get to stay in a decent situation. Why? That was so weird. How strange. So this should have been 1+4. I'm not sure on the reason behind the. Is it 4-4-3? I can't remember. Oh, they finally block low. Rip. So okay, so that's another thing, right? Is that so you do the low, and then instead of going for their guaranteed punish with wall standing 4, they go for a mix-up, right? This could be like bad advice, but just something to consider. Just block low. Against this character, against this player in particular, they love going for the full crouch mix-up, right? Like they love going for bow and arrow anytime that they can. and so you just block low. Bow and arrow doesn't start up enough to it's not guaranteed if they block switch 3, right? So you just hold down back. You'll recover in time, you'll block the bow and arrow and launch them because they were greedy, and instead of going for their guaranteed punish, they go for a full crouch mix-up, which is a strategy I would also use, but again, there's disadvantages to it. The main thing being is that you're sacrificing guaranteed damage for a mix-up opportunity. Just something for you to consider in the future is just kind of taking it to know, like, okay, this player really loves bow and arrow to the point where they're going to go for it even if they had like a guaranteed damage punish or something. Now, it could be a lack of matchup knowledge, like he's not really punishing some stuff, but it's more important to recognize, like, okay, he has a preference to utilize a tool he has a preference of favoring a specific tool that you can use to your advantage.
Spinning around, bow and arrow, getting it done. Yep. So quick get up kick by Pharaoh. Straight Trizzy. Oh.
Nice.
That was a very nice answer from Pharaoh.
Unfortunate. I don't know what missed input that was. But...
see what's gonna happen now. Gesturing. Still doing it.
I think that's like the 4th time. Oh, nice. I thought they told. Ugh, mad axes. That's like the 4th or 5th time that you've done like crouch dash cancel into CD3, and they just haven't really challenged them that much, which is interesting.
Has now taken the lead. Pharaoh looked really good at the beginning. Hasn't been able to keep the position. No whiff on the power.
Nice.
But Pharaoh is
I don't. That's
playing
fine.
clean. He's got almost all of his life. He's saying no. You're not gonna hit me right now. Okay, here we go. Oh, very nice. Very nice. To foil the spring kick. Very nice. Oh! Get up low kick. Gets it done. Pharaoh's tying it up. He says, I'm still in this game. All right. How is Trey Trizzy planning on closing this out? Well, he's getting some good mileage off of blocking down forward two. Gets him some nice setups. The setups haven't converted at all. We got a nice hop kick.
Sorry, just got off work.
Yeah. Look at all that light. Yep.
Good advancing on the tech catch. Or tech roll, whatever. That's minus 14. Doesn't matter. So the final round, and what happens? Wow, they just stayed on Sook. That's. I mean, Julia's probably scarier at the wall than Josie is, maybe. Eh. Yeah. See, that's where it comes back to. It's like the overcommitting to the wall standing 2-1, and you have backswing, which is neat, but it's like she has a lot of scary mids, dude.
Very nice corner conversion by Trey Trizzy. Getting it done. I wonder if Pharaoh's got an answer. I just saw the arrow, so it's still lurking. Oh. Here we go. So, Trey Trizzy still got the life lead, but Pharaoh's chipping at it. He cannot get Trey Trizzy to duck. Trey Trizzy has been like, I'll take these crouch dash 3s because you're not hitting me with crouch dash 2. Alright. So, again, really nice job getting a setup off of blocking down forward 2. Gets the 1-2 and forces the issue.
Not a dumb character.
Up 2 rounds to 0. This is match point. Bow and arrow has been putting in work. It's had a 90% success rate.
That's so unfortunate. Like the one time they duck is when you went for the high. Okay, so neutral, punishment / matchup knowledge combo / okay personal opinions of neutral. Again, no real like terrible habits, but a lot of tendencies to go for unnecessary risks. If you need a mid button to press down to forward 3+4, CD 1+2 because this player refused to sidestep, right? Forward 3, God, what else? Down back 2, sometimes maybe, right? Basically, you have a lot of mid options that you can keep yourself safe, if not leaving you at a decent, if not favorable block situation, right? It's not like you have a lot of like plus on block mids. I wonder who has those. Oh, Paul Law and Shaheen. But you're using a lot of hard call out moves like down forward 2, you know, CD2, stuff like that when you don't really need to. Yes, they are more explosive rewards, but again, you're just putting yourself at more risk. And it's really hard. I mean, you know how it is. It's like, oh, if it's successful, you had a great read, and if it fucks up, if it's not successful, it's like, nice read, dumbass. So the reads aren't working out in your favor, and they just put you at more risk than necessary. It's not like the Julia was punishing you too hard. I don't know how amazing or decent her punishment game is, but the point being, you have better options at your disposal that leave you in better situations, right? Like 4-3-4 isn't really like super great on block, but due to the pushback, it's like, who cares, right? So stuff like that. And, you know, utilizing 4-3-4 outside of just these counter hit setup situations, right? If you need a mid, it's there, right? And then on normal hit, it's just a decent knockdown into Oki, right? You can just, from the knockdown, you can threaten like a crouch dash mix up, or just dash in on them and try to backdash for a whiff punish, etc. Like bait something out of the Julia to do. Other aspects of neutral is that this Julia just like ate a bunch of CD3s throughout the entire match, right? They're refusing to duck, they're refusing to sidestep, they're really refusing to like challenge you too much, right? So in that situation, you know, consider doing a lot more, like a lot more 1+4, right? It's just stuff to consider. And think about it, it's like anytime you did switch, they never really jabbed you out of anything, right? They respected switch, and at most they just kind of immediately ducked to utilize their full crouch mix-up, right? They knew enough to respect switch, but not enough to really challenge you. And you might not want to use switch 1, because 1, they're not challenging you too much, and 2, it puts them in full crouch, which you don't really want to be against the Julia. So just doing 1+4 into switch 2, right, can just give you kind of like, all right, here's my mid check, and you're not really challenging me, so I just get to keep pressing this button, right? Stuff like that. Just utilizing more favorable, like more likely to, I don't know how to phrase this, right? Just stuff that's more likely to work out. Because think about it, right? You can either do a risky mid against a player who hasn't really ducked that often in the neutral, except like one time in the first round, and leave yourself punishable. And the point is that not just that you're punishable, is that you're restricting, like, you know, your movement, your ability to reset back to neutral and take your turn and whatnot. Basically, even though you're not being punished, you're just putting yourself under 13 frames of lag, right? You press it down forward 2, hoping that it works out, but now you have to wait 13 frames to do anything else, and if you press any button in between, you just get counter hit, right? Versus, you know, all right, let me do 4-3-4. Oh, it didn't work out, but it's whatever. There's pushback. Or, oh, this Julia's really respecting my crash dashes. CD 1+2. If it works out, cool. Knockdown into Oki. If it doesn't, I'm stupidly plus on blocks, so I'll just keep pressing another button or something, right? So reconsider your options of, you know, what you're using to check your opponent and what situations they leave you in. Other aspects of neutral: when you approach with a move, again, I'm a bigger fan of, like, you know, just dash blocking, just utilize movement to try and bait something out of the opponent and seeing what they like to do. And think about it, right? Think of like Bronson Tran. This is a little clip he has about talking about dash blocking. What type of fucker are you playing against? Is he an aggressive motherfucker? Is he a defensive motherfucker? Is he a press buttons motherfucker? Etc. 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 Every dash block, especially because I'm pretty sure you're playing offline, right? Offline's great. Offline dash blocking works. You don't have to worry about getting randomly clipped by shit, right? Not as much as you do online anyway, right? If you dash block, you either get a successful bait of get a successful whiff out of the opponent, or they don't press anything, and that tells you like, okay, this dude's like relatively passive. So that the next dash block is instead CD1+2 or something to like press your advantage. But just less reliance on moves like forward, forward, 4, right? Set those up first. Utilize moves that give them a reason to duck or sidestep, and then go for forward, forward, 4. CD switch. Other aspects of neutral. I don't know. I kind of covered everything that's coming to my head at this point. I think Bacon Maru responded to some of your feedback way earlier. I don't just double check on that and see if that holds up. I meant to respond to some of your earlier videos posted. I'd never had time. Excuse me. Yeah, work's been crazy. I just haven't had the time. Anyway, that's about it for neutral. I'll talk about the other stuff and personal opinion stuff. Okay, punishment / matchup knowledge. There's the sayings like fool me once, shame on me; fool me twice, shame on you; fool me 3 times, blah 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 blah. Fool me 5 times into eating bow and arrow, and at some point it's like you gotta take the guess, right? So punishment's hard because there wasn't really a lot of like crazy punishable stuff that they did. It's just more about like those mix-ups, right? And make sure you practice blocking bow and arrow, right? Make sure you practice blocking it, because it's one of those things where it's like it's really fast. It actually recovers faster than you would think from the block stun. So the moment you block the mid, just start inputting that down forward 2, and the moment your Josie's free from block stun, she'll launch for easy damage. Just to make sure that your punishment is consistent, right? You can't let them get away with bow and arrow. And they're not gonna do the John Ding strat of just like, oh, let me just do the first part, the full crouch, down forward 4 into other stuff. That's some 4D chess level right there. That shit's wild. But yeah, just those common 50-50 situations of like, oh, they blocked a low. They might just go for bow and arrow as opposed to like a punish thing, right? They didn't seem too familiar with the Josie matchup. Not enough to really punish you for that much stuff. Not as much as they should have anyway. And it's not an unreasonable thing to do where it's like, all right, I mean, if I block a low, I could go for a weak punish, or I could just go for a mix-up. But the thing, it's not a bad thing. It's just more about like, there's a counterplay to it, so make sure you utilize the counterplay and make them second guess. Just always going for the easy mix-ups. Other punishment stuff, I talked about it already, just about like, if you get hit by bow and arrow, practice what to do against each option, and then just start off by staying on the ground. Usually the Julias just all love down 1+2 to start off with, and then once they see like, oh shit, this dude's staying on the ground, let me do the other thing, adjust accordingly. Sometimes it's really easy to read the option they're going to go for, sometimes it's difficult. Just take the guess. Other aspects of punishment. I like that your adjustment towards the end, as the rounds progressed, you were a bit more cautious on your wake up, like you weren't just dashing in recklessly. Maybe practice other options from your against tech rolls. We'll talk about that in combos and Oki. Punishment / matchup knowledge, that's all I got for now. That's all that's coming to my head at the moment. Combos / Oki. Combo structure is solid as usual. Maybe some pickups could have been better, but those are usually just like awkward pickups in general, so it's just kind of like practice those routes, whatever. Oki. So it was good to see that you were a bit more cautious just rushing in on their wake up later on. Don't forget to use CD3 on their wake up, right? If they stay grounded, just crouch dash 3. Down 4 works sometimes, but obviously it's more about like, down 4 is just really tough to use in the sense of it's just so so little reward. And it's understandable because the move has such good frame data, but it's like, I don't know. Sometimes you're just like, fuck it, I'd prefer your more chunky lows. Well, I think 1+4 hits grounded. Experiment with that, right? Do 1+4, it hits grounded, then they tech roll or side roll or quick get up into stuff, and then you just hold forward for a crouch dash mix up or something. Or just stick with empty switch, right? Just do empty switch, let the thing run out, and then just back out of it. The opponent's not going to recover in time to whiff punish your switch. But just stuff to consider. Experiment more with your options, and try to, always try to squeeze in the high damage ones when you can. Personal opinion stuff. Tools that I think are neat, but your mileage may vary. She has a lot of scary mids, so I don't know about like necessarily utilizing your own full crouch mix-up, but this Julie just like refused to duck, right? So next time you're faced with a plus frame situation, instead of just opting for the usual forward 3+4, maybe do down two, hold down to enter full crouch and start utilizing your mix-ups, right? Use more while standing forward just as a safe mid-check, right? It either hits and you get frame advantage to work with, or they block it and you get pushback to work with. Just something to give yourself more breathing room. Less commitment to the wall standing 2-1, unless you know for sure that you just ducked a launch punishable opportunity and you got a launch opportunity or something, right? One jabs. A single jab is your friend, right? It's just a nice little quick tap and then move. Try to use movement. Maybe an occasional low if you're facing someone who's very passive, right? They're easy tools to use as just kind of like all right, let me test the waters and see what my opponent likes to do. Use enough jabs and they start ducking because they're just trying to whatever, and then that's when you can start throwing out mids and whatnot. More CD 1+2. I think it's just one of those like, how often do you get to say that, oh, I have a mid that leaves me like what, at minimum +4 on block? Let's say it's like +4. Yeah, +5. Hot damn. Is that updated? Like, how often do you get to say, at minimum, I get a mid that leaves me a +5 on block, right? And normally it's like, yeah, it's pretty scary. Or it's like, oh, it's like slow-ish or something. And yeah, it is. But again, like the Julian never challenged your crouch dashes. The Julian never really tried to sidestep you that much, etc., etc., etc. Right? I'm not saying like make it a permanent part of your repertoire and just always use it in all day, every day. Although I would like to, because that move's hilarious. But again, you want to force your opponent into utilizing techniques that you have other tools for, right? It goes back into forward, forward, forward. Give your opponent reasons to duck or sidestep, right? Obviously, they're not going to duck CD 1+2, but you know what I mean. And you're, it's either going to be, okay, they started sidestepping, so let me start, bluffing into doing any of your homing moves or something. Or, wow, this person just doesn't know this matchup and I'm just getting away with murder by continuously doing CD 1+2. Just like how this Julia was continuously doing full crouch down forward, or, bow and arrow and whatever the fuck. God, she's got so many names. It's all annoying. But you get what I mean, right? It's just kind of like, it's about making sure you're utilizing tools to complement your other tools and just kind of create like this ebb and flow of, okay, I'm going to use a bunch of lows. Okay, you started ducking, time to use my mids, etc., etc. And keeping up the flow, as opposed to, okay, I think they're going to duck. Let me just do this unsafe mid call out because the reward is explosive. Or, okay, let me just chip in a little bit with down 4, right? Use more 1+4 when you could have down forward, or in situations where you did down 4, maybe use more 1+4. And if you don't like the commitment to switch, instead of doing more down 4s, just backdash and then see if they do something. And if they're very passive, then just do CD3, right? So stuff like that. Yeah. Oh shit, this thing went on way too long. Yeah, man. Sorry about the delay. Sorry about the wait. Hope some of this shit helped out. If not, if you had more specific questions to ask, I mean, you're in the Josie Discord. Everybody in there is really chill and pretty cool. So just feel free to ask there. All right, man. Later.